This Late Night Linux Family podcast is made possible by our patrons. Go to latenightlinux.com/support for details of how you can join them. Support us on Patreon for access to ad-free episodes and early releases. That's latenightlinux.com/support. Hello and welcome to episode 113 of Linux After Dark. I'm Joe.
I'm Chris.
I'm Gary.
And I'm May.
Welcome back all. This is the first recording we're doing in 2026, so we've just had the festive break. Back in September, on episode 104, we talked about our kind of Linuxy technical debt and the projects that we were planning to work on. And we were supposed to be talking about this before Christmas, but then Christmas got in the way, and so now we're going to talk about it today. So Gary, you said that you were going to get your wife onto Immich. How did it go?
It didn't. I decided to attempt to move my wife to Immich, at which point she said, "Why is this available on the internet?" And then I decided that, yes, that might be a bad idea before we start putting all of our family photos in it, to not have it on the internet. And then I spent ages trying to come up with a wife-friendly solution to this problem.
Right, so it wasn't just running on your LAN then?
No, so I had the Immich instance exposed to the public internet via Cloudflare in order that when I took a photo, my phone would automatically upload the photo regardless of where I was. And that's fine when it's like photos of my receipts and stuff. But if we were going to put 10 years worth of photos in there, probably wasn't such a good idea.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a great idea. So did you try with VPNs and stuff?
Yeah, so I'd been running a traditional WireGuard VPN for quite a while, and the iOS experience of the WireGuard VPN isn't great. Like, it would do things like stop CarPlay from working when my wife got in the car, because it does full tunneling by default, and I probably could have subnetted it out and stuff, but the reality was I wanted a spouse-friendly solution for her to not only have a VPN that she could use for privacy reasons when she's on public Wi-Fi, but also something that she could leave on when she's accessing Immich, or just so her phone could have an always-on VPN to upload photos to it. So I went down the rabbit hole of trying to do it with WireGuard, ended up too much of a headache, and I have moved back to Tailscale, which I had previously moved away from for various reasons. But this time I've kind of rethought how I'm doing it, and have finally, after many years, moved off of my old school Nginx reverse proxy setup.
No.
I know. Shocking.
Right. And so why did that not work then? Why is she not on Immich?
Mainly because I spent so long trying to find the perfect solution that I ran out of time to move her to Immich.
Right.
But the solution I've landed on is a project called TSD Proxy.
Hey, I'm using the same thing.
Yeah, and it's really good. So it effectively runs as a container on your Docker host. You give it access to the Docker socket, and then you add a tag to the Docker containers that you wish to expose via Tailscale with a name and ports that the traffic needs to ingress on. And it just discovers them and then adds them as a machine to your tailnet. So now I can go to image.mytailnet.ts.net, and it gives me my Immich instance secured with TLS and does all the certificate vending for me and everything I'd need.
Nice.
So spent a long time working that out and moved all of the services over to that. So the next step now is to actually get my wife onto Immich.
Right. Well, I said that I was going to do Immich via Docker Compose, and I only did. It turns out that it's just you edit one file and just run one command, and it's just really quite straightforward.
In shock, Joe learned Docker actually quite easy.
Yeah, basically.
You were mentioning, Joe, that you were having double upload issues. Did you iron that out?
No. So I did it wrong, basically. I imported my old library, and then some of that old library was already on my phone. And when my phone uploaded all its photos, it ended up just doubling up. And then I did the dedupe thing, and that I thought I'd fixed it, and then it just re-uploaded it all from my phone again. So I should have used the CLI tool to import it properly rather than just saying, hey, all the photos are in this folder here. But I'm just not going through it all again. So there is probably a year or two's worth of photos that they're doubled up, but anything older than that isn't, and now anything newer isn't. So What are you going to do? Chris, you said you were going to learn more Python. How did that go?
It started well. I mentioned I was using the book Python Crash Course, which is the No Starch Press book that kept coming up as a recommendation. Now, I did do the entire first half of the book, and I genuinely did do it. The great thing about it is there's loads of practical examples. It is repetitive in the best way, in that it gets you to go over what you've just worked through. And it's genuinely been incredibly useful. And then I got to section 2, the project section, which starts with basically like a kind of asteroids clone written in Pygame. And it reminded me a lot of when I learnt Git properly for the first time, where I sat down and I learnt the absolute fundamentals of it, which was quite a deep dive. And at first I was like, maybe I've done this wrong, but I've always felt put me at a massive advantage because I had the foundational knowledge.
Definitely. I mean, that's always best to learn like the fundamentals of something. You can learn like some practical examples, but then you end up kind of doing it kind of parrot fashion. Like, you know how to do a certain thing, but you don't understand the why of it. And if you've actually understood the foundational principles, then when you progress to the practical things, you presumably have a deeper understanding of why you're doing what you're doing.
Exactly. And it's that kind of plays in a lot to what I've been learning about more recently, because this is kind of a personal, professional, bridged project, learning Python. And I'm starting to feel like a lot of things that you come across are just layers of an onion. And it's really telling when you meet people that don't have the foundational knowledge. Once you start asking probing questions, then you're building the roof before you have the walls and the foundation. So I feel like I need to pick it back up again, because the problem with the game is it becomes really fun choosing the assets for the game, because you want to put in like who your main character is, what the aliens look like and things. But once I've kind of gone through that, there's other sections on, data analytics and matplotlib and things like that. So it's definitely something I want to get back to in the new year, but things just accelerated towards Christmas. And once I'd finished a kind of milestone of the entire first half of the book, which was the foundational knowledge, it felt like a kind of nice place to take a pause and assimilate everything. The main thing is getting yourself going again and going back into it. But broadly, yeah, I feel like I didn't quite get to rewriting everything that I'd ever written in Bash in Python or anything, but it's helped me now look at Python code and identify things, look at error output from Python code and identify that is some kind of key pair or class and all the things that were just kind of just out of my knowledge grasp before.
Right. Well, you can look at this Python visualizer that we use, that old favorite, and make it output 1080p video properly for me. That's your next challenge.
Right. All right. I'll get straight on that.
May, you were going to migrate off Synology. You kind of talked about that on the backups episode. So you successfully did that and you're all on ZFS now then?
It's all finished. I did move the last of the data over the break. So yeah, there's a little bit more to be done and it's done now. So the Synology box is just off now.
Presumably you can resell that because they hold value, right?
But it's such a good laptop stand.
That is what I'm using it for.
I used the £20 challenge Dell box that I bought the other day as a TV stand. So that's getting used, which is good.
I mean, Chris, you say they hold their value, but they hold their value incredibly well. I had a DS215J, which was the bottom of the barrel Marvell Armada ARM chip 2-bay one from 2015. And I still got 50 quid for that on eBay.
Mm.
I don't know how they hold their value so well, because that thing definitely couldn't write at 1 gig.
It does. It's just a brand recognition, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it just because it's the name you know? Like people think, I want an as Synology, right? Search eBay, 50 quid, that'll do. And they don't realize that it's out of date and not going to get updated and all the rest of it.
I think it must be, because that thing was not getting DSM updates anymore and was so slow in the web UI that it was basically unusable.
But listen, I think as Gary's discussed on Hybrid Cloud Show before, that form factor as well, extract yourself from the way we look at it. someone looking for something that's fairly small, quiet, sleek looking, that they can plug in, turn on, and broadly get going, even if the operating system isn't that up to date, there's not a lot of choice. So I can see why, if you're kind of coming at it from very little knowledge, and you might look at kind of social media and try and get to forum posts, you're still going to see a lot of recommendations, even if they might caveat it with what Gary said. You know, the J series is weak. For most people, it's just a file dump that has a kind of ClickUpsy interface. They are going to gravitate towards it still, I think.
Yeah. Like when I sent my backup box up north and was on the phone when it got turned on, and he was like, it sounds like someone banging pipes or something. What's going on? I was like, oh, don't worry. That's just ZFS, warming up. And thankfully it did calm down after that. But then I sent the first snapshots to it. It's like, it sounds like pipes again. What's going on?
That's what computers sounded like before we stopped putting spinning stuff in them.
Pretty much. Well, and also it doesn't help that I didn't put any dampening at all. I just got a really cheap case and screwed the hard drives directly into it.
That is definitely a problem with the AU Star compared to the Synology. The Synology was pretty quiet. I could run it while we were recording.
Mm.
The AU Star, no, it gets turned off before we do this, because every time it writes, which is about every 5 to 10 seconds, it must write something for some reason. You hear clunk. Oh, sorry. And then at the top of every hour, it's taking a snapshot and you can hear it thrashing all the drives.
Yeah, I have that in my network corner every hour. It's like the beep beep on an old Casio watch. Oh, right, it's the hour again. Gary, you said you were going to move from Plex to Jellyfin. How did that go?
That also didn't happen.
Oh.
I've massively failed at these tech projects over Christmas, but that didn't happen because none of the clients for Jellyfin that I tried on the Apple TV supported H.265 or AV1 decoding, which meant that every time I played an H.265 or AV1 video, it was having to transcode. And it was absolutely fine until halfway through a movie, Jellyfin did a check for the intros for a series or something, which it used the GPU for, and then it couldn't transcode to H.265 or AV1 streams at the same time, and the movie paused. That didn't happen in Plex because the clients do support hardware H.265 and AV1 decoding, so I wasn't having to transcode the same files on Plex as I was on Jellyfin.
How did they manage to break that on the Apple TV? It's just an iPad chip. It has the ability to do that.
I don't know, but their docs specifically say that most of the clients don't support it. So really annoying. And I was seeing stuff transcode way more than I was in Plex.
I, in slightly related behavior, only just got a stable release of the complete rework of the server component to stabilize for H.265 as well. So my sister has a Roku TV. It's one of the 4K ones that supports H.265 direct play, but it just wasn't having it until they stabilized a few point releases of the new server element. It was just, at first she said it's just stopped working. She went in and it just wouldn't accept that it could play that natively, and it wouldn't transcode it either. And I was able to go over Christmas and iron all of this out and make sure that the server element was updated. And also on my Android clients, it was just saying playback failed, but then playing. And once I got through that bumpy patch, everything has stabilized again. But it's been a not particularly great period since they did that major, and I think necessary, upgrade to the server element.
Well, I said that I was going to get Jellyfin working properly, and I have. And I really just don't want to admit this on air, but I have to, I think. In the docs for hardware acceleration for QuickSync specifically, it says you need to put in the device. And it says /dev/DRI. And so I was doing that, and it just wasn't working. I just couldn't understand why it wasn't working. And I was firing up Intel GPU top, and nothing was happening, and it was all CPU. And yeah, right there at the top of the screen for Intel GPU top is dev DRI card 1 or card 0. And I'd missed that. So for months and months, a year or more, I couldn't get hardware acceleration working because I didn't realize that you had to put in card 1 or card 0. And I'm just that thick.
I think the big problem for me is that I just don't have the time or inclination to go doing all of that fine tuning that you spent the day doing at your sister's house, Chris. Especially when the time that this stuff hits is the kids are in bed and we've got 2 hours to watch a movie while it's quiet. Like, if I sit there with my laptop, that's just not going to happen. Whereas with Plex, the app is still installed. I can just SSH to the server, start the service, open the app, and it just works. So for something that is as critical time-wise as the limited amount of time or limited number of hours in a day that I have to watch and consume media, I just don't have the time to mess with it. And I don't have an Apple TV that isn't in the living room to go and test this stuff on either.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I rage quit Plex, not just because of the change in the pricing model, but because I was trying to use it on Chromecast with the updated Android app, and I literally wanted to physically throw the phone in my hand at the wall because it was so bad. And I was like, right, I've had enough. I'm committing to this. And there was a period where anyone with access to my server on various clients, I just said, no, Plex doesn't work and there's something else coming, but you're going to give me some time to set it up. And I just rode it out. And I do have to say that I did try Jellyfin about a year ago and gave up quite quickly because at least on the Fire Cube, which I was running the official Jellyfin app on, the sound was out of sync regularly. And that's just one of those things where you're like, I can't watch this. Like, I'm not going to try and offset the audio every time this happens. But after that was ironed out, I kind of leapt with 2 feet and just said, I'm going to make this work. But Plex is so polished because they've accelerated as a product. But then the reason that they're doing annoying things is because they've accelerated as a product. So
I've never been happy with the whole like having to sign in and feeling like they know exactly what's in your library and stuff. Like that has just never felt right to me with Plex, whereas Jellyfin is completely self-hosted.
Yeah, that was another. I very, very first spun up Jellyfin when Plex had a major outage and I couldn't access the library because my server's not hosted with me. It's hosted remotely. So yeah, I'm just not comfortable with the direction that they've gone. And yeah, when they just completely blasted the Android app out of the water, that was enough for me.
Well, yeah, when I first started using Plex, I didn't have to sign in at all. I installed the package, I went to IP port, and it just worked. And I could sign in over a VPN and connect to it, just like Jellyfin.
Yeah, which you feel like Jellyfin can't do a rug pull there because if they did, it'd just get forked.
Again.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's the open source for you, And I was trying to make it work on an iPad, a first generation iPad Pro, and Jellyfin just wouldn't load. But then in the App Store, having searched for Jellyfin, there was loads of options, including SwiftFin, which I presume is written in Swift, the native iOS language or whatever. So that worked fine, and I was able to get someone watching the show that they wanted to watch.
It's got all the extra bits that have gone from Plex without, because I never had a Plex bus either. So individual users, user switching, local downloads. I've been using all of those features on Jellyfin. So I'm just not going to go back, even with the paper cuts.
The problem I've got now is that the backup box that I sent up north, which is a J1800, it's, very weak. Now they've discovered this Jellyfin thing. They're like, oh, can we do more of that? And so I've installed Jellyfin on there and it's just a little bit too weak for it. So I might have to send up I think it's a 4th gen i3 Dell box that I got for the £20 challenge. I might have to replace it. So the question is, do I trust him to change the drives over, or do I have to do some juggling and not have an offsite backup for a few weeks? So I need to decide on that one. I need to talk to him about it. But either way, Jellyfin is spreading in my immediate community, shall we say.
Yeah, I think I do need to revisit it. Like Chris, I've just been bitten by some kind of change they're going through or something that's not quite right all 3 times I've tried it. So maybe I just need to find a stable version and pin the package or something.
It's worth it, though. It's worth it to be completely self-hosted and open source and know that all of the copies of Big Buck Bunny no one is looking at, you know.
Also, it's integrated in so many ways. Recently, I just loaded up there's 2 ways to use it in Kodi. And I just loaded it up in Kodi and was very, very quickly up and running. And it looked pretty much the same. To not have like, you should watch this streaming TV full of adverts. You can't have this because you haven't paid for a Plex Pass. To have that all stripped away and go back to a very simple 10-foot interface that just does the job. Like you say, Joe, it's just very freeing and satisfying.
That said, there's someone I know who is a bit of an idiot, to be honest, and primarily watches YouTube and stuff on their PlayStation plugged into a TV. And I said to them, have a quick search for the App Store, whatever it's called on there, for Jellyfin. Nothing. What about Plex? Yep. Plex app right there.
Yeah, they have the clients licked, definitely. Yeah. But, you know, it's scale and money and product and all of these things. And as you said, May, in 5 years, we'll be running some fork called something else or some other project, because that's how the world works now.
All right, May, you said you were going to move a website that you look after for a non-profit to GitHub Pages. How did that go?
Well, I didn't do it, but I got kind of close. Luckily, it's a Hugo static site, so I was at least able to set up some automation to be able to update the website as it sits, so it's a little bit easier now. It doesn't need to be changed too often, so for now, that works. GitHub Actions is terrible, but GitHub Pages is okay, and we'll get to it some other time.
Fair enough. You also said you'd set up Home Assistant.
No. So instead of setting up Home Assistant, the biggest thing that I wanted to do was make it so that the switch that the lighthouses are on for the Valve Index in the living room could be turned on by the other people who live here. But instead of doing that, I just set up an automation so that when one of them turns on, the other one turns on, and then you can walk over and hit the button on the plug, and it turns on, and then the other one turns on. And it works great.
I feel like living in a country where the outlets have switches on might just be an easier solution.
What mad country would do that, Gary? Come on.
There's at least tea.
Switches on the outlets, basic safety standards. Who could possibly do that?
Plugs that don't fall out. Yeah, all of those stupid things you'd never introduce.
All right, well, I said that it's about time I got into Ansible, but unfortunately we haven't got time to talk about that. So, no, I have not done that at all. I still kind of want to, but it's just not high on the list, seemingly. So maybe one day, but not today. Right, well, we'd better get out of here then. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, but until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Chris.
I've been Lazy.
And I've been May.
See you later.